Thus I have heard. At one time, the Blessed One was dwelling in the royal domain of Ultra Peak Mountain with a great gathering of monks and a great assembly of bodhisattvas. At that time, the Blessed One was absorbed in the samadhi of the many aspects of phenomena called profound appearance. At the same time, noble Avalokiteshvara Bodhisattva Mahasattva, looking at the practice of the profound perfection of wisdom, saw the five skandhas in their natural emptiness. Then, through the power of the Buddha, Venerable Shariputra said to the noble Avalokiteshvara Bodhisattva Mahasattva, how should a son of the lineage train who wishes to follow the practice of the profound perfection of wisdom? Thus he spoke, and the noble Avalokiteshvara Bodhisattva Mahasattva answered the Venerable Shariputra with these words. Shariputra, those men and women of the lineage who wish to follow the practice of the profound perfection of wisdom should look at it like this. The five skandhas should be seen purely in their natural emptiness. Form is empty, emptiness is form. Emptiness is not other than form. Form also is not other than emptiness. In the same way, feeling, recognition, compositional factors, and consciousness are empty. Shariputra, like this, all phenomena are emptiness, and having no characteristics, they are unborn and unceasing. They are not impure or pure. They neither decrease nor increase. Therefore, Shariputra, in emptiness, there is no form, no feeling, no recognition, no compositional factors, no consciousness, no eye, no ear, no nose, no tongue, no body, no mind, no appearance, no sound, no smell, no taste, no sensation, no phenomena. There is no quality of sight and so on until no quality of mind and no quality of mental consciousness. There is no ignorance and no exhaustion of ignorance and so on up to no old age and death and no exhaustion of old age and death. In the same way, there is no suffering, no origin, no ending, and no path, no wisdom, no attainment, and no non-attainment. Therefore, Shariputra, since there is no attainment, bodhisattvas rely on and abide by means of the profound perfection of wisdom. And since their minds have no obscurations, they have no fear. Transcending falsity, they attain nirvana. All the Buddhas who dwell in the three times have relied upon the perfection of wisdom and have become true and complete Buddhas of unsurpassable, perfect, and complete enlightenment. Therefore, the mantra of the profound perfection of wisdom, the mantra of insight, the unsurpassed mantra, the unequaled mantra, the mantra which calms all suffering should be known as truth, for it is not deceptive. The mantra of the perfection of wisdom is proclaimed. Teata om gate gate paragate parasamgate bodhi soha. Shariputra, this is how a bodhisattva mahasattva should train in the profound perfection of wisdom. Then the Blessed One arose from that samadhi and said to the Bodhisattva Mahasattva noble Avalokiteshvara that he had spoken well. Well done, O son of the lineage, it is so. O son of the lineage, since it is just so, the profound perfection of wisdom should be practiced just as you have taught, and the Tathagatas will also rejoice. When the Blessed One had said this, the Venerable Sharadvati Putra and noble Avalokiteshvara Bodhisattva Mahasattva and the entire gathering, as well as worldly beings, gods, humans, asuras, and Gandharvas, rejoiced and praised the words of the Blessed One.
Ando sepe tsara mare meno donge jeze lozo gyala buji daze yana chuje yande so lodan che ro nye mo nye le je ja jo zhe jin mare meze donge nyogo chunye junze je no Dene doje sache don yode le zo jase to ye gu jero jedo jene jene dale me se jambe yang ande o arabaza na arabaza na Arabazanani Zedin Jeje Chero Zejin Dali Din Mumibar Rasien Tada Dinje Jolo Domayi Lodrum Bobino Joy, joy, Joya, 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 doya, soya, joya, 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 soya, joya, 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 oya, doya, doya, Mianzhi naga neya naya miya bade saye lama rinpo dage shu bide de jo ade chebe go de jesu de go su to je mo ru so do so pian so ge le she ye zhe de go a yan zhuo yue zhe wo guo yue su ma le xie zhe ji jian zhe bie du xia jie zuo wan de la su 多觉前波的心，多觉成，就在的罗波多那罗波，边中周边波多阿的上，鸟类心罗觉罗所望的，上波多灭一年那着的。秋天的月的当这边边，在绕个山的年所连吧，家境是别接了所望的，家人月面相见的转动，那我这把这边可就见。上界国家泡泡要三所，沙漠大月觉了所望的，协助当边中阿的上，高档的边面包中对见，连就那些过去所了。高档那么那所望的。看见世界自己做个梦，我都这边我兄弟走的，当我这边到不给多的，要是句话接了说完的，叫做个的老妈多结长，到了刚的些年最多的。说到天幕不住自在明，看见了么能了所望的，让将所着跟了到一边，也让他把这边就稳住，在边这边他看在把眼，三在些年能了所望的。借我更多样的那么多，这面去见遍了落世间，撒到了这有的绕左面，多劫将给我，愿多有三界去当初的长当了，想求不多到年叫做见。大概七千几遍所能见，罗罗变现三界，如果修三界，热当所见全能了，想求不多大念叫做，大概七千几遍所能见。热了变现三界，如果三界全。昨天全能了，想求不多大念叫做，那也就别做那些，罗了变现上界如不有。呀，肯定要跟他不等他去等，啥没得。
不想选的，不见。
啊，想不是那么的，对那些的龙口当的，差龙这边。差不多。
ready.
Oh,靠近楼下了就没样，不是多的。
Rimchi is having a little bit of runny nose, but nothing serious though.
哎呀，他都是些，他们是觉得狼人那里，他的去青年干的季节那样的，东部那么影响着去些啥呢？呢，就持续干人的，持续去长的，呢，对这些叫呢，你没些个下些教育呢，能看着去些这样结巴的那位，对，那可是他那么说下些的是那的。
So normally it is a custom before actual teachings are given. The teacher will always go through the overview of the prerequisites or or preparations for preparation of actual teachings, which will be recited by the one verse, bringing from different sources and going through the explanation as the prerequisites of the actual teachings.
对，两个其实的那种 Garza, Gulon Jutera, the Gaze, Garza, Johnny the Debichula, Shita Shawa singing, Negateri, Sheba boy and Yamba boy and the Gulon Shantu, sang it, Sembi, and Togi Dandala, somebody chooses Kubi, Tori.
So the reason for, giving this preliminary teachings prior to the actual teachings is to cultivating appropriate motivations to receive the actual teachings, and what is the appropriate motivations which to be cultivated, and what is inappropriate motivations which is to be avoided.
Yang Jasala yang Besha and the Chibikola yang Kichigama, Corona, the Sachi and Katu Pesha.
However, it is not required for the monastic students at the monasteries. Whenever they give the teachings, the teachers will not go through the explanation of such preparations. Rather, they will resume the teachings from whichever the chapters they have left from yesterday. It doesn't require at the monastery.
Talari Chibi Chini that in Sadi, Tangan Chini Chigano, a catch shoot in Ninga, Kadina, Sachimaton, and Mipa Majek and Dina, and the Didici, and Lamatis Shaje, Manyang Chichi, Yamato, and what to show you just adore.
However, when it comes to the teachings of the Lam Rim, such as this, the changes and the stages to path of enlightenment, which then requires those preliminary teachings. So it is for this purpose, I always take my time to go through the outlines of the Lam Rim Chenmo, which is the custom of the great teachers.
Also thinking and the Madi de Deva, Lani Chini Shagi. Mother thinking Chacho Jona, Loris on the Democasa, Joichu, Demago, and then Loris on the Chene, Namazo, Lani Chini Chibicola, and then Hundrigi, Domada Moboy, the Tamasogi, Madune, Nishaji Matons, and Domanda Viva, Loris on it.
So, actually, prior to receiving the teachings of Lam Rim Chenmo, it is a custom that we need to go through the reciting the longer version of the request verses to the lineage gurus of Lam Rim Chenmo. However, it is due to the lack of time. We're not having enough time to go through this longer version of the Lam Rim supplication verses. But we are taking our time to recite the abbreviated version of supplication verse to the lineage gurus of the Lam Rim Chenmo.
Tamazo Tenerich, Tamazo Didi Chachinagi, and the Kunochi, Mibati Dichi, and Mibate, and the social Tana Nagogit, and the Didi and Nechin and Zanset, and the Shin and Kobe Tower in Sane, and the support Nechin and Chama Chadamato, somebody they do each other, Zamini Kavanyam the Nandora. Socham Basin Sujin, Shidu Chibachana, in Sane, and this Socham Basin Sujala. Dewa Zibi Tanda, the Dongi Pombi Tanda, Nyan to US Science. And then Tendrita la Samba Sajima Teba, G. Sosa Gigan, the Yapeta sign, the Joji sign, the Rigi, number 2 Bambola, and Langi, Lamana, Coding, Langi Danger Number, Vivace, Nuranda Ranya Tanda, New Socham Business, and it G. Tandala, Tandama, Yandala, and in Zaratsu Bisson, US. And Tendriti, Jawala may be Debadama, Sanchez, and Niji. Nijeda Tepani is semi tonal. That you say Jingo and Ningo and the Vigil Money, Hadavata Checking, and so line, take again at Chipasha. The missing Tenagacham Shuijiro.
So here now, to cultivate positive motivations as usual, let's begin with cultivating a faith towards the object of refuge, including Buddha Shakyamuni is surrounded by the great Lam Rim lineage gurus of the lineage gurus of the Lam Rim Chenmo. And in their presence, one then visualize entire sentient beings in one's surrounding. And just as we have a desire to achieve happiness and overcome sufferings, so too all other sentient beings have a similar wish to achieve happiness and overcome sufferings. So it is therefore one should cultivate irreversible faith towards the object of refuge and cultivate a compassion and loving kindness towards all other mother sentient beings. And on top of that, and one should cultivate a very strong motivations that whatever time that may take to receive the teachings of today, whether it is 1 hour or 2 hours, I will make sure that my entire participants I will make sure that my entire participants are receiving such teachings with conjoined with such motivations of working for the welfare of all other sentient beings. With this, let's take a couple of minutes to meditate.
나도 이게 그런 치바지에는 관심 바샤 유전에는 다들 사소주 주면 네 상주랑 멤버스 말이 비미바스 얘기 주면서는 지발에 되게 상주랑 지는 바데네 가서 거스법이 진예제에게 쇼되지.
So with such motivations, the particular teaching that we're receiving is known as the lamp for 3 worlds, or the deities on the stages of the path to enlightenment, or the dispeller of the ignorance, the lamp which dispels the ignorance.
되지. 다 된적이네 상주랑 지는 바데 통마 제바보 스르잖아요. 덤바 홍보이. 아니 되네. 아니 덤바 투비 홍보이니 장질라 또바 준비 또바데 냥냥토는 송 아니 강송바 되니 자가기 변조 속에 안에 제 또바랑질라 총 되네 자가기 변조 당 배율로 싸워니 배토는 즉 아니 되게 용 배 강청이 좋아라니 오늘 로펜 같은 르지야 나시 때문에 배 되게 제사니 다 로주자야마 지게는 상라니 정말로 소화바 생기게 오늘 지 강천시의 조지 소화바 생기게 된적이 용서 잡아지 배네 아니 소속에 대지 모델 원자 많이 봐 뽑아 지 자가기 배도 이용라 신주 타신바지 전에 니 냥냥 창소 봉상에 되라니 상초 랑지름 봐 랑지 지바 아니 산제 살런도 세게 니 사자 선들에 맞선 데발케시나 사자이다 Dendriji Jishan ni Jumpi Tabo, ni Jedu Rembo. Da Kansa de Thomas Silichi Yanelena, the dead and money Nasha saying to get Jenny share in it. Dendriji Junda Pitabuchi in it, Zebaba Tedagini, Karsa Yante, Sana Tombi Tone, and Chiniche, and such a Tomba in Zipa Chawa, so I don't know.
So, our such teachings, if you were to trace the root of such teachings, can be traced all the way back to the teachings of the Buddha himself. In other words, the source of this teaching of the Lam Rim Chenmo is given by the Buddha, and whatever the realizations the Buddha may have accomplished through his practice, he has transmitted those teachings, his realizations, in the form of teachings to his followers of the great Indian masters. And with with the collaboration of the both Indian masters and the great Tibetan masters or the great Tibetan translators, or then translated these teachings of the Buddha into Tibetan, which is then followed by the great teacher such as Lama Tsongkhapa, more than 600 years ago. He went through the rigorous practice and studies of the great deities of the great Indian masters. In other words, the works of the great Indian masters. And compile all those teachings in the form of stages to the path to enlightenment. And in other words, he just presented these teachings of the path to enlightenment as a map for state of enlightenment, liberation and state of enlightenment. And it is very fortunate for all of us to be able to engage in such a, able to take our time to receive such a precious teachings. So with this, the first outline of the greatness of the teachings given in authors and given in order to show the teachings as a noble source is covered. So then, the second descriptions, second outlines, which is showing the greatness of the teaching itself, in order to engender the respect for the, respect for the teachings. For that, can cultivate it by understanding the actual description of this particular teachings, the subject matter of these teachings. The subject matter of these teachings are to dispel the self-cherishing mind by means of practicing bodhicitta, and dispel the self-grasping mind by means of cultivating wisdom, realizing selflessness. So these two, bodhicitta and wisdom, realizing selflessness, are said to be the main subject matter of these teachings. Then with this, then followed by the next outlines, which is the sequence in which the disciples are to be taught the actual instructions.
Casten lo chetaja rinpala ni de de la nimbo lembi shiko nimbo cheta lembi tsuni che ta tomo ritsa ta nimbo cheta lembi tsude la ni nangji nangja la ngi ba che da nimbo lembi ngo che ta tomo ritsa ta nimbo lembi ngo la song jibu chungun da tumo ya nangje rinpa nyang se lembi jibu ren da tumo ya nangje rinpa nyang se lembi jibu chenbi nangje rinpa nyang se lembi che tomo ni ritsa ta jibu chenbi nangje rinpa nyang se lembi la zai sa che song 대전은 주게 고센지 코나덴바 센데 지다 집이 주 센지는 쇼발라 로츠지 다 동번인 제사 다 센지는 쇼발라 로츠텔라 손지 센지는 로발라 로그비 전세 로발레레알레 로비 산제면 주바 덴바 로발라 로비 림바 니시바치 다 동번인 제사 다 로발라 로비 림바 니시바텔라 자이사지니 제레 테바지 뭐절라 로츠데 제바도 로제 테발라 로츠지 아니 다 동bol라니 레 동bol라니 이제 동bol라니 이제 동bol라니 나 손에 동bol라 손 제세는 상주 가서 제세 상주 선배 라발라 한대 장와 장내 제세제 담바존 존에 제단에 비추지 나 동볼 존에 제단에 비추 동번인 제사 나 존에 제단에 비추되라 손 네 칸라로 비제 텔라바는 이제 텔라로 비림바지 나 동번인 제사 나 텔라로 비림바들니 쇼바절라로 저다 집바도 파시 타만이라고 제지 나 동볼니 랑게서 주민바시바 바로 대신 말로제당 제 주민바시바 대용바시라 로세지 나 동볼라 주 임발라로 추춘라로 저발라로 사델라로 시라로 로세지 전리 시라로지 로세지 나 동보 아니 제세제 담바 존에 바로 대신 바줄라로 제당 대용바시라 로세 니제 나네 네 바로 대신 바줄라로 대나게 네 파신 동번이데 차네 아니 맞어 거수 봐봐 네 수비 파신라로 세스 안데 카투 사제잖아.
So we're on the particular chapter of the practice of how to practice patience, which is the third teachings of the Bodhisattva's the third Bodhisattva's deeds out of 6 perfections: generosity and moralities. Those two have we have been covered. The first 2 perfections, but we are on the particular perfections of the practice of the perfection of patience.
다 뒤에노게 아니 가서게 저발라송 자이 저발라송 예바는 너발에 지만냐 비저바 생이달라 아니 니보 카데 간데 잡으랬어 이제다 지게 너바시 시에나 될 나중동 될 동네면 저잖아 아니 남의 간데 잖아 당거래 세대.
So 3 practice of patience. We're on the first how to practice the first patience, which is to developing the patience of disregarding the harm done to you. How do we really engage in practice to perfect the practice of the first level of this practice of patience? What kind of antidotes or remedies one need to cultivate to avoid retaliation of disregarding harm done to oneself.
맞아 거기 보시면 또 버til라 냐라는 유쇼 로세브로 아마도 피게기 냐다디 용구 가레레 아니 랑이 도는 신주 지금만 매이 도는 신주 지금만 유쇼 로세라샤브로.
So normally when we see something is going on, something that's something that is if you see something there's something going on somewhere, it's something that may be not appropriate for us to participate, and then we encourage ourselves or encourage one's own friends or loved ones, whoever is with you, let's ignore that, let's not involve in such, right? This is what we normally do.
텔라 유바지마도 텔라 돈레케기 차그마레 로아 단타기 텔라 샴비기 제베 제체산은 돈 베톤에 돈레 제토와 예소나 세와다 샴바디 야제로로아 니터 체르차로.
However, when it comes to this practice of patience, this is not something that we're simply avoiding. It is not simply avoidance of the problem, but rather by understanding the problem and how to, apply antidotes towards such problems of, based on reasonings. And this practice, the practice of application to antidotes towards such, impatience must be based on sound reasonings.
다 그래서 가서 거기서 봐봤더니 이제는 다는 초보리가 생긴데 타마타마들라 대나 생긴 배우지도 되게 농도도 잘로지저로자 대나 내 전부 소위 터스 다시 시발라 소바 라 조바 다스 동해 전부 노비 시드 동해 춘춘 조바 신의 리소 손도아 동해 충만라 조바 신의 리소 손도아 대 잘로지저로지다.
Yes, sir. So now let's read through the text, and we're actually on analysis of the basis anger is unjustified. Rinpoche wants me to go back and read the previous paragraph, which starts from therefore, just as you tolerate bleeding or burning as a treatment to cure a severe illness, it is appropriate to bear small sufferings for the sake of preventing great suffering.
당가서 체대에 강해지 채워대 단다가서 단다 컨트롤 생겼다나 무슨 요배들은 시 지제 강해 준비 채벌을 때네 인텔로 메시지 때네 다 메시지 찾아다 농박은 진짜 매버서 오라 되게 계속 좀 봐지 단다 로지토는 민도가 가서 추셔 봐 유셔.
So normally, when one gets angry towards someone or someone makes you angry, and if someone agitates you or annoys you, if you retaliate that person accordingly, or if you get angry towards this person accordingly, we're not actually gaining any benefits out of it. Just retaliation is not the deeds which should be carried out by the wise ones.
맞추게 내 발에 내려지에 소속이 동해면서 내 발에 내려지고요 와스. 아니 저런 때문 가와시 우지를 저런 동해만 되나 내 발에 내려지는 동해 тө배마도 대화 연구민도와 인산에 디기 대화 저랑이 되거나 있잖아. 뭐는 전에 될어서 받치고 그래. 저번에는 세대 대화만 세대인데 내 저하시만 편제 대화 요구를 해서 되게 된디더래.
So normally the way of retaliating to someone who has done something on us, who has, who inflict harm upon us, we as ordinary beings, the way we think to retaliate is we have a right to retaliate. And your retaliation, you think, but we always think that our retaliation brings about the happiness of oneself. However, it's not so. Just by retaliating, you actually intensify our sufferings. It actually lingers or sustains our continual of our sufferings. So therefore, instead of that, if one engage in the practice of patience, not only it will calm and give you happiness of this life, but also give you a happiness of future life as well.
됐지. 이제 다른 로그인다. 다 조여 조사 말이야. 다 때라 다는 초머리반라 아사. 아니 뇌비 제단 죄제단 죄매라 다네 다바네 소.
So on an analysis of the basis, anger is unjustified has two parts. Analyzing the cause of harm and where the fault lies, and analyzing your commitment.
맞아, 내가 징에도 주질래 때는 내가 제거로 다 지도 가르쳐서 딱 그래요, 소한테.
So now, what is meant by analyzing the cause of harm and where the fault lies? Because whenever we tried, there's a harm which has been inflicted upon us, and there is some kind of causes and conditions that exist. There are some causes and conditions which enables us to go through those sufferings.
다 변나 매지 소소게 주보了 천도 그지 누와이나 아니 천도 류니가 아니 농에 제기 제래 초는니가를 초고래 마초는니가를 초줘야 말이지.
For instance, if someone cause harm upon us by by using weapons and so on, but if you analyze very carefully, both the weapon as well as one's body is the cause of the suffering.
대유 천도 다게 류선도 니가 농에 주의 때 대체 다게 류숑나 간실라네 초아시 쇼아이네 미 쇼아 미 준다와 제 가사 제도 미제 농에체 센도 다게 존주나 델라 녀바시 슬라초 셰당 라라 모베 뇌시베 라라 모데 초지나 델라 쥐메 관계샤 쥐다 제바데 쥐다 제데 관시 인시소소
So then analyzing the cause of harm and where the fault lies, engaging in the Bodhisattva's deeds is, his sword and my body are both cause of suffering. He obtained the sword, I obtained the body. At which should I be angry? If blinded by craving, I have obtained this this abscess with a human form, so painful that it cannot bear to be touched. With whom should I be angry when it's hurt? And also, if some people out of confusion harm others, while others in confusion get angry with them, who is blameless and who is to blame? So now, let's take a simple example. If one's body is sore and you have unbearable pain, it is due to the sword, or your body is wounded. So if by accidentally, if your body touches some other object nearby you and you get hurt, so where to be blamed? Which is to be blameworthy? Because your both sword and your body and an object that actually nearby you are all cause of this pain. So where should we actually get angry when your body is sore and you have in other words, that you have a very painful boiled on your body. So when you touch when someone accidentally touches your body and you get pain, so where should you blame? Which one is the blameworthy? So this is how we actually grasp and cling to our body. It is due to this a strong grasping at self. It is so therefore we cling onto our body, and therefore our body has actually become a source of all those pains. It is due to the strong grasping and cherishing of our body and ourself. We are unable to bear even a one word, one strong word from others. So you are,
Simbi Jene, Pasho the Jun to some engage Chow Nimbu Simba Nagi Seo in San Takanje Zubo de Yubi Jenshene, and Rana Migi never share Tusa Jin Mengan Roda Nagi, Tanjimbu Nagi Red was. Yetane, Yana Sher de la Longore, Yana Sema Pumbo de la Longore, Kanji Kenila, Yandere, Donge Jing it, Kanjinika China de Salawa.
this is how it is, just like our body is, our entire body is sword. And if someone touch very slightly on your body, the unbearable pain will be experienced by ourselves, right? In the same manners, if one really cling on to oneself, letting our self-grasping mind cling onto it, then it is similar to how our body is sword. And just by a slight touch will become an unbearable pain. So therefore, if you look at those, the cause of the pains, where should you be blamed? Which is the cause, or which is the blameworthy, which to be blamed for our pain? If you really think carefully.
저런 데 나를 너버데 동해 제기도 수 제세지 논로요. 동해 인가에 제지기도 와. 전도 돼.
So here now, if someone inflicts harm upon us, and we try to retaliate, I think by saying that you are the one who is causing this harm upon me, and I want to retaliate. But this retaliation will really, do we think this retaliation will bring about happiness to us?
this. 된저게 천동법을 가서 라라네 아니 렌저라 소발라 모비 제전에 미시병원게 아니 제바지예요래 라라네 아니 동해 가서 공주님이당 아니 상비편 미시네 아니 초네 아니 죄제고래 이제니 delata 간대잖아 초고래 그 미시게려 와서 라고야죠 그 이제도 콜리전도 이제 저도 간대려서 지로와.
So therefore, where should we really blame now? That someone who brings harm upon us. If someone it's clearly mentioned that if some people out of confusion harm others, while others in confusion get angry with them, and who is blameless and who is to blame?
뒤지는 가서게 고한당에 하고 마서 고한테 시에 마서 시리 제대로 미세되지 여러 좋아.
So therefore, we have, normally we apologize people by saying that, oh, I didn't know that, if this is the case, and I should apologize. So therefore, we have done something to someone without knowing. Therefore, you are apologizing, right?
텔레파슈체 계시게나 아니 선바 이제 선바 통통 명예도서 다지 제가 내셔도 아니게 소에메 버서 두고 소샹에 들어 마서게 니주일로 통고여로 미셰병 온든로 알아.
So then just like when someone says something bad or something tries to harm us, someone who is mentally unstable, and we don't really think this person is doing this on purpose, right? We don't get angry as we get angry towards a normal people, because we know that person is mentally unstable. Similarly, when someone if someone inflicts harm upon us, they are doing so out of confusion, derived by their ignorance.
다들이 다정가 속에 파 고대버시나 춘 통보부기 강사 코로나 개체시나야 아니 메시비 모비용하게 손바들 자자자이 버지 아니 강누비 춘대다 강라 노사기 주번이고 돼요 동해제기 이제 연전에 딱 간절질라 컨트롤 사고 그래 가사고에서는 소소기 신주 타신바 지정에서나 저거조사 명령되지 내가 또 많이 계셔 말해.
So here now, if you really think very carefully, to whom we get angry. When someone inflict harm upon us by impaling, weapons and so on, should we get angry towards the weapon or the person? If we think about getting angry towards retaliate against the individual who actually impels the weapons, then such individual in him or herself is under the power of the ignorance or the afflictions. So therefore, if you really analyze very carefully, we cannot find something that can be pinpointed or something that is that can be blameworthy. So here we are not talking about the emptiness, rather we just really think about where should we blame.
다 된주기 냥래다 된주기 상비기 고차치 소소를 용도하라 뭐서 단다랑 가서 실로마 되네 카테자도 세대 용 무시야 돼 맞췄다 당기 단다네 된주기 전세상의 동배토는 로를 공시자지네 공비기 로이到底 해지 거마도 단다제나다 나온 로에 코로 말은 가서.
So however such practice, it is really hard for us as an ordinary practitioners or the initial practitioners. But what we need to prepare ourselves to reach such a level of practice, is right from now, we should familiarize ourselves with such practice and think about all those reasonings. When someone harm upon me, what is the cause of their suffering? What is the cause of that harm? Why someone is really inflicting harm upon oneself? And so it requires a rigorous practice and familiarizations.
다 가서 가르고래 샴비 고차 광고 샴비 고차 컨셉이 강전에 아니 샴비 고차 거는 마도 단단하니 쇼로만 주는 메질을 제목은 메질을 저거 간세 대지고 되게 로로 공시로 이렇게요 말와 지체는 모델 차시 그래 내가 다 홍식으로.
So here now it says that one should protect oneself by wearing the armor of love and compassion, right? So such armor can be accomplished by means of sustained practice and meditations. Without meditations, it is not possible for us to accomplish such level of practice, because just by going out and say, well, I'll practice my patience, regardless of what others says, I will be able to tolerate, and we just go outside. We may not be able to do that at this point, but we need to, first of all, to really to make ourselves, to protect ourselves by wearing such, strong armor of this love. One should go through the rigorous practice and meditations.
단다 가르라도 때 두고서나 단지 강하게 아니 님부 수첩의 영해지게 님부를 여비 제시는 수보 손제 제도 나기게 맞소기 수보 때라 단다 차세기 손제 제거 여다 매생에 때 단다랑 맞소 죽수도 그래 소소.
So it's just like our body will become so painful due to some kind of soiling or some kind of boiled, and it's a very unbearable pain that we may experience. Similarly, one can speak from one's own experience. Due to our own self-cherishing mind, that we cherish too much of ourselves, it is due to that extreme cherishment really makes us very painful. not being able to tolerate even a one slightest problem.
Ona tene na tanda ne support lo to ne chi pe kenye lo yu ye so de chi tsona de beten pe nga so yena tanhu se je ro tanhu do re ona de support se de dabo jin jog mare es ke che mare lo wa support so je che beton ne support de yu beton ne support de tension na de la tembe ji sende shamba dan zwa de compétent to yin so na ran shi je ji bi ja la cha ro support.
So it is therefore, we're not really suggesting that we should not take care of our body. This is not what I'm suggesting here. We're talking about, based on this body, we have a mind. And then the mind needs to be protected by cultivation of love and compassion. If one is able to cultivate a genuine love and compassion for others, and then our body and mind, in other words, all the actions of the body and minds will become a beneficial for entire sentient beings.
Ta rangi kelang bala de kelang tabala rangi kelang bala taba ne so do ko de wodo nge lo wenda nyeto da jibi de shoba la meze ba to miri na da ne senje mare senje bi dune senje tangje je pede ruba kelang shin jenje de shu ne senje tangje yonsu zong la da jeme Now the sun je bi senje je pa senje o so to poto yi xin ne chang.
So then here, the next paragraph where we read, analyzing your commitment, develop the fortitude of patience, thinking it is wrong for even Shervakas who act for their own purpose alone to be impatient and get angry. So of course, it is wrong for me. I committed myself to achieve the benefit and happiness of all living beings. When I generate the spirit of enlightenment, I act for others' welfare, and care for all beings. Also, Buddha was said.
This is what Sejang Roa. Rani Chico, you don't do it, Jella, nobody control the Pango Yana, and Gender Jagin, Senjata, Zewa, you want the devil singing that, and control Pango, but the Sebo Sejang Roa, so on the Chiroa. The singing about the Jabu Roas.
So, if it is important for abandoning the anger and hatred just for one's own purpose, happiness of one's own purpose, then certainly it is important to abandon such anger and hatred when one is striving towards working for the welfare of other sentient beings.
Je sais manger n'est pas carrière c'est na any poto yi chez ne sondo sanje jeten bala di pa me je ba ni de ne pas attention na je pas me gamba ma gamba asa de temba tsawa ne shi se ndushi de damba ton yin de re temba tsawa ne de hi ba yin jir temba we cha la me rang ke damba shona go no Gunu yin son batan. Gapobi yake ngama dane. Pape kan ge kamba don la asa. Le na kasare. Le na me hune dewata. Neje la maleba tin deje de shepe sa je medeo roson. Je medeo roson.
Then here the Buddha's teaching is to commit no sins. When you fail to cultivate patience with the slightest harm, you make the curse, and may this eradicate the teachings. Thereby, you give up your vow, and this eradicate the teachings. We do not have the teachings as a whole. So when we break our vows, we dissipate what we do have. And also when a yak has been settled up for carrying goods, if the saddle tightens around his tail, he bucks, and the saddle beats against his legs. If the saddle is loosened, the strap drops, and the yak is happy. Similarly, if you do not relax around a harm doer, the harm doer matches what you do, and you become more unhappy.
Dede Jadan Terra, Sanjay Tabasede, the Kaji, Niji Segure, the Sholo Tenja Kiamara, Nishambi Zawaji, and then also Dibaji and Majashi, Rangi Senators, Tena Sanjay Tamba Sumanagi. Sanjay Tambase, Nuji Jonathan, tell him Gamba, Katina, the Katina, Conjusion on the brother, Contra Tanech and Gina, and then Digitilla Sanjay Tamba said the Shindan Kawachi. Just Sanjay Tamba said, such a daughter. Go so you Tamba you missing it, so Namba Chilanzicha was. Then never chana, ni Rangila, ni goes Rani Tamba nobody is not. Then Yakachamboredo.
So here it's the teachings, the essence of the teachings of the Buddha is the practice of compassion, abandoning the actions that are harmful to others. That is the teachings. So it is therefore one should not commit a sin. One should not commit a sin, right? Subduing one's mind is the teachings of the Buddha. So therefore, observing vows is the observing teachings of the Buddha. Because without a vow, one will not be able to refrain from harming others. So therefore, by observing vows, not engaging in the actions that are harmful to others, and cultivating compassion is said to be the essence of the teachings of the Buddha.
Control saying it as Sasona, Lugurmado, Control Yana Dena, and Bena Ya Sechidoa. Ya said, and was a Bena Ya said, the Yala Gajan, Yagi Gabala, the Mota Yamari Baba Yamari, Ya Jonjora, Ya Gabala Jokian, Sayat, Ya Gabala Kian and Bogu, no Robatus. Then it because Ya to Toma Yatanina, Gajan and Pane, and Ya Gabal losing it, and Namala, missing it going. Then the Malua is on a pass on a got the Korongi combat journey, combat down it, and combat journey better, Deva Yomarwata, Ya got combat Dongura. That made the Lord the Hursoina, got the Sasoina, and it Deva Negro.
So here now, we have given the example of a yak, right? Here it says, when a yak has been saddled up for carrying a goods, if the saddle tightens around his tail, he bucks, and the saddle beats against his legs. If the saddle is loosened, the strap drops, and the yak is happy. Similarly, if you do not relax around the harm doer, a harm doer matches what you do, and you immediately become more unhappy. It's very good. No.
On this order, Tanda, Luna said, New Zealand, no legend, Majawa, the New Zealand, Lushavana, and they watch Chemen Mado, New Zealand, no by you, because no legend, and don't have the Chepen over so I tell you.
So therefore it says, if you do not relax around the harm doer, then the harm doer matches what you do, and you steadily become more unhappy. That is true, right? If you try to retaliate when someone done something bad towards you, and this retaliation will not bring happiness. Rather, it lingers experiences of unhappiness. Take a 10 minutes break here.
Sanje Shendo Mine Bewai Goge Nano Sheno Shubon dong hu ru min zhe la guan da yan da ya min ai ai de so de jin da da de da ri ne za din da jin da zhu bi da ri yi xie ni ga de nga kan sa ma
你修的你是在边缘吧？什么去？
年纪咋定的大理一年，
现在准备大的西，
等的到的开始的到，现在主办人，
我什么去？
对，到的也大理年纪咋定的，你这个到也嘛的也大理些开始呢，的啥子看不到，感觉看不俺说的，今年强都要接上个大理年纪咋说你个？
没错。
对，可算了，俺说的这等的，可晓得强都要的。别这阿达尼的用什么的是啦？大理年纪咋说？俺从这里面都要钱吧。
As a plan to go somewhere with some the Sake Kempo and the Kagi Kempos in this month, 27th of this month, and also the July 4th. So we will not have a teachings on the 27th of this month and July 4th.
对的。对。呀，他这边的这个，他今天嘛都是鸟到的，可算要修了那了，按照没些，鸟来的都是嘛，就那去我们的大路上的。
没错。
当我做东部，但是一个东部的了，呢，空中3米吧，是的，空中3米，你人觉得空中3米比金色些啥？但空中3米呢，看的结果的是什么？这我写的吧，是的。
So, in whatever case, anger is unjustified. So up until now, we have been talking. We were discussing on, the generation of anger is unjustified. So now we are on the new chapter, which is showing that the compassion is appropriate. So if the anger is unjustified, then what is appropriate? What is justified? Then here it says the showing that compassion is appropriate.
我所以看的呢，这日巴的，没日巴的是老有的，节省交点着了啊。日巴的没日巴是的，就人往的这个给什么的，这把钱的日巴的没日巴是的，前面交点也给钱的，新旧钱。
Whenever we find in the text by saying that it is appropriate and it is inappropriate, we're not just simply saying it is appropriate, impropriate without having any reasonings. Whenever we find in the text it is appropriate or it is unjustified and it is appropriate, there's always a reasoning. There's a rationale or there's a sound reasoning behind why it is inappropriate, why it is appropriate.
对。但你不这话写日巴呢，说的，现在他就他妈没把呢，夸呢，让给他妈了随便你当早我们就把没把当，没到今说到这了，东西送去东西完就把当，你没别，等着你呢，让给你当西米，等那就几把写完了，到这话结果去，错当原来写吧，嘛呢原来写都。So
then here, now showing the compassion is appropriate. It says, contemplate from the depth of your heart. All living beings have been in secular existence since beginningless time, and there's no one who has not been my friend and relatives, father, mother, etc. Being impermanent, they lose their lives and are miserable due to the three types of sufferings crazed by the demon of the afflictions. They destroy their own welfare, this and future lives. Must generate compassion for them, and how could it be right to get angry or retaliate for harm?
当我说的，他就日本的个写的个新旧钱的，这把这边经常都不老有的。当我那说家不是就让他这话有眼的，那眼的是新旧钱送的，
So now let's try to analyze. How could we say that entire sentient beings has been one's own relatives or father and mother's father, one's own parents and so forth? How could one should analyze why we should say all sentient beings have been one's own parents? So now, if we think that those sentient beings have I have no connection, or I have not related with those sentient beings, then the next thing is that we should try to analyze yourself whether there is a consciousness, shirik consciousness or the awareness within the body of oneself. First of all, one should analyze that. So if you do not accept shirik or the consciousness or the awareness, then it is not necessary to engage in practice, because once we pass away from this life, your body will be cremated. It will become, one's body will, after cremations, one's body will transform into a, the bag full of ashes. So it is the practice of, the practice is something that is not necessary, isn't it?
아니 가족이 풍부 생애때 아니 단다 콤바진노라 나들이 콤바는 내서 야바나 이게 아니 다 세계 이제 나바시바 시리 되게 풍부들 내서 야데 되도요나 아니 시리 생애때 아니 간이 용거래 생애게 신주니 바치적 뭐죠.
So then if this is the case, let's go to a second analysis here. So if there is so-called such as consciousness or the awareness which exists within the body of oneself, then how those consciousness coming into being? What is the causes of occurrence of those consciousness within the body of oneself?
다 된주의 희리 생애때 풍부들 내서 야도는 희리 생애지 뭔지 제친지라 시리 생애들 토미타자도 그만해. 토미타자마도나 아니 시리된 주버들 내 친지라 아니 다 내서 야서기 콤바를 그거래. 단지 풍부를 그거. 된주의 풍부들 토미타야 말에 토미타면아 아니 토미타면아 장가여 말에 장가면아 아니 된주의 저와쳐서 대 장가명이 차거든.
So now, by looking at our body is a guest house of our consciousness. Whenever the time comes, the body will left behind. The consciousness is the one that actually travels from one life to another. So therefore, think about the beginningless of our consciousness. If one is able to have a genuine appreciation for the beginningless of one's consciousness, then one will able to appreciate the countless rebirth that one may have taken in the past. When it comes to the appreciation of the countless rebirth that one may have taken in the past, then the countless individuals who have been one's own relatives.
딱 된주기 신주 제외데 아니 된주기 다음에 받아 탐에 받지나 딱 얘기 저와되다 아니 낭시되게 내서 야서 다음 탐에 봐이나 단다기 천디기 파마다 변자的년제기 나를 편도 제바당 이제 소자 무슨 생각을 근데 제가 여바데 다 취해 동행의 지차로 된저기 다 취해 가되라 아니 다 된저기 소소를 제와의 전지 장이게 아니 현재 대다기 내수 가르래 아이 아
So then, if there's no beginning of one's life, then it is appropriate to say there's not even a single sentient being who has not been once on loved ones, or once on relatives or parents and so forth. So if this is the case, then just as one's current parents are kind to oneself, how the kindness that's extended towards oneself. Similarly, all other sentient beings of the past had been as kind to oneself.
다 된저기 전지 잡에 신제의 인원시다에 단전만 도는 손도 되게 아니 메타진 소다 제라 이 동해선지 진심면바나 내가 된저집이 많아지 인원시선의 선주제번 생태리 나전어.
So then if this is the case, then we should think about, we should reflect one's mind upon the actual nature of all sentient beings, the nature of all sentient beings. Just as the but says we find in the three principal aspect of the path, where it says that in the limitless round they are born, right? And the birds are tortured by the three sufferings without a break. Think how mothers feel. Think of what is happening to them. Try to develop bodhicitta, or the highest wish.
저도 대카도 가서 대카도라나요. 되게 전체 나저나서 저도 되게 가서 배진된 나저나서 많죠. 주요 그래. 현재는 정으로 저기 아니 가서 만나지 가서는 세제제반데서 라니기 가서는 니주제반데서 카팔로 지도제데 선발을 편보시고도서 내가 송도.
So His Holiness always mentioned, it is good to sometimes it is a very effective for one's practice when we can, change the word. That's think what is happening to them, which enables one to generate bodhicitta, and then reversing this towards oneself by saying, think what is happening to myself, which enables one to generate, renunciations. So these two are interchangeable.
그렇지. 대체의 선발을 편보시는데 또 가서는 그 양수 배제대 정문원지 소소들 배제 그 체지고야지만 계주야고 아니 강가 내가 면대도 대체지 좀 넣어 가서 가디는.
또 좀제 연계지 손한테 맞아.
대주 정문원지 소소대 차전대도 코소미세 대송 가서 강가를 뒤수는 여바는 지로. 아니 들어갈 계주는 할래 야보로. 뒤수대의 체지 좀 넣어 하바도 상주생이 담바대 양서 나오도도. 뒤수대의 소소게 대치 되니 저이나
Yeah, it is really good to pay attention when His Holiness is giving such teachings, of how he actually gives us the teachings, such as this particular verse. There's a one line that can be interchangeable, right? Think what is happening to oneself and think what is happening to others. So then His Holiness always giving the vows, the Bodhisattva's vows. So we should pay attention and take a part of it. It's very important.
아니 지 랑이 쳇된 데다 저 심하게 대화단지 땐도 ጮ네 되게 되는 지나다 대랑은에 간절전에 컨트롤사고베 대당은에 저와 샤리바치 레와서는 단다 디게 나리치모 코로니 치데 잘로 카히데 전에 근데 마데나 사나치 떠나 은에 지 셈발에 때스 총론지 제 투사를 상근도.
So if you really reflect very carefully of this particular chapter and think about what is happening to other sentient beings, and how they are in the limitless sound, their birds are tortured by the 3 types of sufferings and so forth. So then if you're able to reflect one's mind upon such, then it will always prevent yourself from generating anger and hatred towards other sentient beings.
되지. 당가서 대인들이 메제르마도 그 신주제 신주제다. 내 인지미지 파 선생님 저거만 양대 같이 보네. 근데 랑이 이게 같이 코너라서는 또네. 근데 랑이랑라 저와잖아요. 이 교시만 편제래. 타바 되네 타바래 되네 당체 제바. 드리지 타바지 타 맞아나다. 드리지 강에지 노로를 디나에 타서 말해 상이지. 소속에 나지 상나 또나야. 지 탄대줄로 용초사로.
So this is how you can think about, in the limitless round, I was born, and in my birth, I tortured by the three types of suffering without a break. Think what is happening to oneself, and think of what is happening to me. With this kind of reflection, will enable one to generate renunciations, and if one can change this towards others, will then enables one to develop highest aim or the body shadow for the welfare of other beings.
당가로 저런 거네 소속인 저한테 소속 거네 전통형에도 소속 관리 전통이나 소속 대지기 나와요. 단단히 마서 나가서 미시비 미비원데 치되어리 또 미시비 미바데 세기 터데 라니를 마도 섞어려 말와.
So if we really put an effort to engage in practice, we have all these potentials. We all can do this. If we, ignore those practices, then one will not be able to develop such aims, the spiritual development will not take place.
또 된게 가서게 재화생인데 예된 바지 상나방에나 단다 탐해바기 탐해바기 지지 차선 되게 재화생이 카투지 재화데 제정에나 이 카투들 소소라 대지다 선바기 희가 간데지 제토고도 데 뭐는 배 라바지 따토고 다 델레 젬바기 전체 남바탕제도 상나돈 신체 요수 줘발 재화기 라니 네 대진 러도 나기 라니 제라 제토나 요수 줘발와
So it is really a profound practice that if one is able to extend one's the compassion love towards all other beings. When speaking about love and compassion, we're not really talking about the love and compassion based on attachment or the love and compassion extend towards one's relatives and so on and so forth. We're talking about love free from love without any attachments, genuine love or compassion which needs to be extended towards all other sentient beings. If one is able to develop such a highest aim, then what else is needed for us to develop one's spiritual realizations?
되게 전체 산나도는 저와 셰리파 생에되게 고안데 데스레바지야 되게 취디야 데스로 카히로.
So therefore it's showing the compassion is appropriate as a reason. By reflecting upon the reasoning, then one should read this showing the one should read then showing the compassion is appropriate.
되지. 예세바 되지 되세요. 대니영에나 도스 제그리 데데다 야 데데 카바저 산나타 야 산나토네 로네 망해와이나 야 데 카셰 야 산나토 야 데제다 진고네 파 데스 세르도 제 아니 된저제는 강전에 댕에 지연소나 아니 sem바도 추던 제와지 차로 그러.
So this will really have to practice. First one try to read thoroughly, very carefully, and slowly, and then, without reading, and try to reflect one's mind upon the meaning of whatever the chapter that you have written, you have read. You then, try to meditate on that. With this, then one will be able to, mingle or mix one's mind with the practice of Dharma.
Xian nga zo yi che che gur se de ba chen chen ba tong de che jo ko lian do na san ba che da men de wa je chang ka de mo mo zhuo xia cha na ani
So
so
sometimes
so le pian do ke men do
there's a danger that when we think about, it is always possibility that when we think of practicing the Dharma, we're mainly focusing on reciting some chantings and reciting mantras and so forth, and without reflecting one's mind upon the actual meaning of the teachings of the Dharma, which is not much benefit.
san ba cha bo de san ba la bo cha gu
So we need to loosen our mind, the mind that is so concrete, which need to be loosened and softened.
de che da nga zo ka re chen che na nga zo le me le ne ka de ja gum cha gu yo re se la ne de re nie de wa nie ko so ji ge nie ko so ji ge xie ba da ani nie ba so ji nie ba so son xie ba la me je ba ga ba nie le so.
So then there are the stopping impatience with those who prevent your praise, fame, or honor, and with those who have contempt for you, or say offensive or unpleasant things to you, has the two parts.
Dere, nga zo ka nge chen da se dere, tanda ro me ge de ji de ra dong ba so de ji ya po yin na, ni de ra dong ba nyen ra chen bo cha ba, ni ta ge de se ne ge she chen ge de ni be ka la ta nga chi bo yin be ge cha re. Ta me jen da ji nye je de wo do me ra che go do, ni ji nga la ji ra go me do se de si che de, ta nga zo dere ka che, tanda nga zo ge chen de ge de ji se ge de so ge so de re dong he se de so ge na de.
So this is how we always, as ordinary beings, we always look for, looking for the praise, fame, and honor. Those are the one that conditions our life. We look for the fame, and we look for the praise, and we all do not like to be defamed, but rather we are looking for someone who can praise us, someone who can, spread our fame and honor.
Tele ni le chi. Tyo ba so song ji ge she ba la me je ba ga ba la song mon ji tong ba song ji. Tyo ba la re song ji. Tyo ba so la yin de me bi chu sang ba dang jun yuan ma ra le jun yu chu sang ba dang sa. Te na te da go ba la ga ba sha wo sa tong bo ne so do.
So then he is stopping impatience with those who prevent three things: praise, fame, or honor, and stopping impatience with those who do not. Those three things to you have contempt for you, or say offensive or unpleasant things to you. Stopping impatience with the that's the three praise, fame, and honors has the three parts: reflection on the how praise and so forth lack good qualities, and reflection on how praise and so forth have faults, the need to delight in those who prevent praise and so forth.
Ta nga su de ro me je da ji ge tyo ra shu tang so na, ani de le yin de yo re de chen yo re se la na, ani de le yin de yo ma re so.
So now, if someone really praise us, if you really reflect very carefully, is there any good qualities in praising you?
Ta le yin de ke me ba kan re se na, dong bo de le tyo ba tong ai de le, tyo ra tong le yin de ka ri yo ma re se na, yin je rang la tyo ba tang rang ge cha ba tyo pe tyo ba tang re rang ge cha ba je ba la so. Se ren wa tang ne me ba so se de dang sa. Sona Toba So, Jawa Jinji, Denibo, Kaya, maybe. Yada Nyambala, Megawa Ne, Sondo, Dere. Nekon, Nekon Goba Kaya Minjubi, Shemi, Kambu Dibana, Shiba Chungana, Moatan, Deda. Ni chime do nyang do rang la mene chapa me ba re me chapa sha de so do chapa me ja de so do
So then here it says, reflection on the how praise and hope lack good qualities. Here it says, when others praise you and spread your fame, it serves neither of two purposes. For this life, it does not bring you long life, health, and the like. And for future lives, it does not bring merits and so forth. Therefore, do not get attached to fame and praise, but approach yourself by thinking, my displeasure when my displeasure when my praise and fame are ruined is not different from when small children cry upon the collapse of their sand castles, which lack any of the of records for dealing.
de chi ta ma ze pe na cha jan me chi ki charan ha re se lo ye na ni me de che ne ro go ma re la ni ye de je ban ro go ma ro as ni me ro na ye me ro ma se ko ro de ka re se na tempo jin meng ye chi ro me ki da se de sha do.
So now here, just think about, it is it's just a, it's it doesn't require a very profound reasoning. Think about when someone prays you. Does this serve any purposes? When someone tells you that you're a wonderful person or you're like a god and so on and so forth, does it really, bring long life, health, and so forth? Or does it really help you to accumulate merits and so on and so forth? I don't. There's nothing that can bring us any good qualities.
Pe na so do a bu go chong ki zemu zen ne shima yu komba de je go ro shima yu komba de hi so na bu go shu mo go ro de de ji ba re cho jin yue ma ro da.
So it is therefore, it sets a very, simple example and very good example here. It says, my displeasure when my praise and fame are ruined, it is not different from the small children cry upon the collapse of their sand castles.
Ta tong bo de ba de pi so na de ba de le yen de me bi ji se de xie sa re ta de ba de de yi ci de chang ma ka sa jiao dian jin long de yin da de da zha bi rin zhuo ne so so na men je che men je da da men je ne me mi le de wa yan men je ro da ge ran de xie ju na de la ran ge dian ji yu jie dang xie mi kan bi di ju na xi ba na ne ka che ngo de zhe dao da zha nyang na rang ge sen ne xi ba zhen xie so so.
So then here it says, engaging in the bodhisattva's deed states, praise, fame, and honor do not cause merits, nor longevities, nor cause strength, nor health, nor bring physical well-beings. Once I understand my own welfare, what meaning is there for me in those? And also, when their sand castle collapse, children cry in great distress. Likewise, my mind is challenged when my praise and fame are ruined.
Xie ju de ba de cha ba de se la ani de so na ga ha de ke ya ma de ba de nyang de xie da ji de ba de ma de ni zo sha na ya xi ma de kong ba de ba na gi de de la ni ke ge chen si che ma re so.
So it is very clearly mentioned that there's no benefits when someone praise you or when someone defame you. There's no benefits at all. It's just therefore it says when there's praise, fame, and honor do not cause merit nor longevity, nor cause strength nor health, nor bring physical well-beings and so on.
Ta xie ju de ra tong so na de le jian ka re yue de sa na le.
So then, so next it talks about the reflection on how praise and so forth have faults. So then it says, develop disgust for praise and so forth, thinking praise, fame, and honor distract my mind with the meaningless, destroy my disenchantment with cyclic existence, make me jealous of those good qualities, and spoil my virtuous activities.
Papa Joshi Yungumari said the Darari, Meshata Chichi said the corner Shuji in Yendala Tunjo Toyata, and Soso Najito of the Jinma Machaji, betting Naji compared down. Naji compared down Biwagi, Jella Tado, the Jessica the monk, there might be changed and Yawadi Yando, so.
So then here, it is really true. When someone prays us, it will really destroy our disenchantment with regard to cyclic existence. Rather, it will enhance and develop our, jealousies and with our pride, and with the development of pride will give rise to jealousy. And in other words, it will actually bring about a degeneration of one's own virtuous activities. It will prevent from engaging in virtuous activities. So then here, engaging in the bodhisattva's states, praise and so forth distract me, destroy my disenchantment, and promote my jealousy of those with good qualities, and destroy all that is good. So this is how we should, prevent our generation of anger, hatred, and so forth, by reflecting upon when someone praise me, what is the benefit I gain out of it? When someone defame me, what is the harm that I may receive out of it, and so forth. And now think about the reflection, it's a reflection on the praise and so forth, have faults, and needs to delight in those two prevent praise and so forth. So one should be delight of when someone becomes obstacles for your praise, fame, and honor. One should be delighted with such persons, or whatever the circumstances that actually prevents you from receiving such fame, honor, and praise, and so on. So then here, just by praise, fame and honor would not really bring, not something that will that is helpful for one's present life, nor it is helpful for one's future life. nor it will bring about longevity and strength and one's physical welfare and so forth. But rather, it will intensify our negative thoughts and emotions, which enables us to accumulate negative karmas and so forth. So now, if this is the case, then what is the next step? It says to need to delight in those who prevent praise and so forth.
Somebody, Tetana Dagi Tubatan, Chanyedan, Yaku Yamba Shibane, Da Nyenrodo, Sonjetan, Chapi Chiwan Jujetan, Donghelen Juban Dubi, Go Geji, Sanje Shinlo Tabu Juba, Yeno the Sane, Ye Tapane Twala, Gajin, Gawajaba Shade, so.
So there it says, the need to delight in those who prevent praise and so forth. Stop your anger and feel delight from the depth of your heart, thinking, in that case, damage to my praise, fame, gain, and honors protect me from going to miserable realms, cuts the bonds of my attachment, and like the Buddha's blessings, block the doors through which I'm about to enter into suffering. Thinking like this, you should, from the depth of your heart, stop anger and feel happy.
That's it. Zajila ngason control honge gitela ni zepi tense ne ya tege ni cheche ya ndege ni chede ni ngala tege chede ni sanje yi shinlo yi ni zansho yi yente de ya mepe wa che ni nyesho yi ni don kasela ta jede pewi tanda la ni ngala de kon ha so de le kanggo she ngi ko he sha sa ne ni de sanje yi shinlo yi yin sa ne ni pa long lo pa yi shu de ga gang bu do.
So therefore, we should consider someone who really annoys you, or someone who agitates you, someone who is trying to make you angry, should be seen as a object to whose reliance develop one's practice of patience. In other words, you should look at them as a teacher of one's own practice of patience. And also, one can also think in this way: when someone tries to annoy you and tries to make you angry and so forth, one should think about that. Oh, this is the blessings of the Buddha. I'm receiving a blessings of the Buddha so that I can develop and enhance my practice of patience.
This is Tana also logo in Nagomari, Nanu San and Kanjone, and it better combitation is in the Gemari. Conje, Jensis Taco Rico and Sana Tonemato, Tandara Michi don't do Joe in Guatemala, the better as an overda.
So, yes, of course, certainly it is not that easy for us to engage in such practice. But if you really put an effort and energy to it, certainly one will be able to engage in such practice. At some point, one will be able to perfect such practice in the future.
So Tanda to be Jensen de Shane, de Yama Salana, Jetsayana Maroa, Kumbajin the Mewa, Jezupita Shujin, Somena.
So it is always good to, put in effort to practice, and just not simply saying that, oh, it is impossible for me to engage in such practice. Just not ignoring it, but rather put in effort to engage in such practice.
So
when one is preparing for war, one should equip with protection, right? Such as bullet controls, and you think about that. Ancient warriors, they wear those armors, all those different kinds of armors. So we have to prepare with that. Without preparing those, if you are preparing for war and show up in the combat situation so you may not be able to win the war, right?
대시 다게 되소네 예시 강다 니네 봐 대다 다네 예송도 동화 송시 쇼미나 다네 조아 되니라 니에다 규디 치지 고 말에 치모고 강다 다지 주시바 대라 다네 제타 초 다네 동엔 존데라 산제제네 신라제 메토 고바 니죠와 대라 다네 제타 초 시에서
Then here it says again, the engaging in the bodhisattva's deed states, therefore, are not those involved in destroying prayers of me and the like, engaged in protecting me, falling into the miserable realms. I diligently seek freedom and do not need the bonds of gain and honor. How could I get angry with those who free me from bondage? I'm about to descend into sufferings, but like the Buddha's blessings, they are giving me an opportunity to avoid it. So how could I be angry with them?
this go devas go devas this
So those are all related to the lojong, the trainings of the mind training.
the 정으로 가서 그 주필류 대한 로송부도 다 주필류는 뜻은 다들 집에서 뭐 장셔야 돼. 뭐 다들 동보의 치지 치림보의这些 아니 시도의 제나 장데 고아를 뜻이 되어도 마고 인치도는 제셔야 뜻이 고아 되어요. 양수 따고도
So His Holiness often recommend us to ready to study the chapter of the Shantidevas, the chapter, the chapter of patience. So most of the verse that we find in this particular chapter is always quotation from the Shantidevas Guide to the Bodhisattva's Way of Life. So if you just read this verses and try to reflect one's mind upon the meaning of those verses, will be very, very helpful.
this must this logo.
So then the next stopping impatience with those who do three things to you, have contempt for you, so say offensive or unpleasant things to you.
영자들 때 년주식도 세야라고 다들 좋아. 아니 교실 제금도 세야라고 다. 아니 지 뭐슈 지소는 네 소소 그 하셔도 매버서도 세야 돼서 뭐지어야 다다 되게 다들 뛰어간 속에 놓셔들이.
So here normally we have a saying that someone is not respecting me and someone is not honoring me and so on and so forth, and you dislike with this person and try to do something that is harmful to that person, right? This is what we always do. But rather, as a practitioner, we should do the opposite of this.
그때 모두 이렇게 조사만 자셔. 되게 사지들 모두 조사만.
That's it.
얘는 좀 차보도 됐으면 저 로그 사이나 양 같이 데이터 카시에 자리 한테 하루.
That's it.
야야. 아니 당 가서 방송되자. 아니 저 체조대는 주비냥내 전에 네 아까제 가서 파쇼질 카드 자네 세그로 가제 소설 로 가서 로드법에 나왔어도 세세데 되게 지전 잡배로서도 로드법에 나왔어도 세세데 소소지는 소소기 공부하면 매셔야지 진짜 토베도네 로드기 뽑아야 봐지 괜히想不到 저와야 봐도 돈에 죄송하이나 주법도 빼대 가서이나 먼저 마소네 리더 지야바지.
So with the practice of patience, one will be able to generate the light of wise encouragement. In other words, the light of wise encouragement. So Therefore, one should always think about the practice of patience. It's not something that you are just ignoring someone's harm and so forth, but rather we are uh, broadening our mind, widening our mind. So let's pray and dedicate our merits towards all beings by dedicating that by means of this practice, engaging in receiving the teachings, practice of patience, without a long, may I achieve state of complete enlightenment for the benefit of all other sentient beings. And just as all the great beings of the past have gone through such teachings and practices, may I too follow their footsteps to reach the state where they have accomplished, the state that they have accomplished. So it is therefore all the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas in the 10 directions. Please bless me to be able to do this. So try to generate a very strong motivations to dedicate your merits towards the development of such practice, such as patience towards oneself and all other sentient beings, will really enables one to accumulate tremendous amount of merits.
Jambe yonju tsebe jezoni, dembe remba kyunsa lanje ju, yene robe jena nishe shu, range cheche tobe lanje ne, shoda tsebe chawye take je, roye ye je mima se je ne, jaye tenpa yore ze jo je, Yambar je choge ma jabo, Chaja nyama jebe shodeni, Yeje chembe yera jabayi, Pede dede sewa jeba shu, Seje nyaye mijo chelene, Ledo jajo lanje ribe jang, Tade nanje yela dede se, Jaye zeba redo jojo je, Laza zhubi tenje zhuxie ji, Ye jie si jie me dan bi bi gu, Sera gendo jaye ma ba ye, Ada la dan jewa ma jo ji, Kanse te ba cho la ju je ji, Su jie zhu la zu ba te vie se, 诸天道之道度诸邪经，抓邪将此书，有就解决的罗密可测绕定经，南无成能说知结果。罗藏定别之门萨所念，若也变色道，念就解考着让我也心高速别当掉，莫虑就业念，现在在我点点叫作业，小别随天光。念就解，要别抱怨知道前方道。更多什么天阳天仙天，得到根基结束道路去，也望得到当知绕度我，就说西边叫我当知，我望光了求度高波的，大些个月早我的个讲，若不学习绕度我。哎呀，多谢，天主。